good morning. Welcome to another episode of Papa's Workshop. This is for Adam, Brady, Luke, and Brenna, and for all those others that like seeing an old man make sawdust. Before we get started, we need to check in with my new apprentice. Not quite an assistant yet. There she is. This is Rosie. You sit. Well, yeah, that's a good shake. There you go. She is 7 months old today. So it's sort of a happy birthday. Let's get to work, Rose. All right. In this episode, we're finally going to get into the juicy part of this table. And I need to kind of explain. I did on the first episode, but here we are. That's been delayed quite a bit. So what is it, 6-8 months since I started on this. And this is like episode 10 or 11. I'd have to look. Anyway, we're making an expanding table, but it's not the typical one that you see on all the other YouTube videos where the center star comes up and the leaves all come up as you turn the apron. There's a couple reasons I'm not doing it that way. First off, I don't like the way that the apron has to be like 5-6 inches tall to accommodate all of the ramps and stuff for that to come up. And the support, in order for the apron to turn, the supports are got it, everything just has to, there's too much to fit in that space. And I think the table looks odd with the apron being that tall. The other thing is, you've got to use all these mechanics, linear bearings and such. And to me, spills are going to happen. It's going to get down inside that, and that's going to make a mess of those things, with rust or just going up the works. So I made this table originally when I was in 2013. Not as decorative as this one is, but the mechanics of it, I made a similar table in 2013. And the idea for the oval shape, it's slightly oval. When it's expanded, there's two sections that move out farther in one direction than the other. That originally comes from Robert Jupe, who patented an expanding round table in the mid-1800s. And there are Robert Jupe tables, antique tables from that era. The only ones I've seen have always been round, but his patented all sorts of shapes, including this oval shape, also squares and other such. You can look up under Google patents, you can look it up. But his mechanism did not, it stored the leaves separately. So you would expand the table, then you would have to go around and put the leaves in. When I made the table in 2013, the prerequisites were that the leaves had to be stored in the table. So that's what we're going to do on this, but you still have to manually put them in. They just fold and tuck away in between, while still maintaining an apron that's just shy of 4 inches. It's 3 3/4 apron, so it looks better, I think. Also, we're going to use the ultra high molecular weight plastic, the white plastic. It's kind of a self-lubricating thing, and if stuff gets spilled in there, it's not going to harm it. Nothing really sticks to that, so even the stickiest Kool-Aid or whatever isn't going to gum up the works. And that stuff's easily worked with the regular woodworking tools, hand planes even. So anybody can build this without having to purchase a lot of hardware. So in this episode, we're actually going to start on that upper mechanism. We're going to make a ring and then attach the apron. We've got the 4 apron sections that I glued up during the last episode. we're going to start actually attaching those. The table base, I'm going to go ahead and put the die on it and finish the pieces before I glue it together. So that's going to be mixed in here. I'm going to got to pick a color for my die, and what I've done already is I've got everything wet. I just used a spray bottle and dampened everything, since the dye I'm going to be using is a trans tint, water-based. It's going to raise the grain, so I'm going to pre-raise the grain, then go back over it with a brown paper bag, get all the little fuzzies off, and then we'll put the dye on, and that'll make the fuzzies after the dye less of a problem. But so we're going to do that. Kind of in between things, I'll just update that as we go along. I got to wait for good weather to spray. I spray in the garage, so we'll spray the stuff once the dye is dried with shellac. That's about it, so let's get started. All right, I'm getting ready to cut out the some of the supports for this thing. I got this. I need this ring and this center, and this part is actually going to be waste. We'll try to use that up on the leaves. But you see, I've drawn everything out because I need to get these back in alignment once they're cut into two, and I need to draw the support pattern on the bottom. This is the pattern for the actual moving parts. And there's a different pattern on the back. But I'm going to go ahead and take a jigsaw and cut this close to this line here to make it a little easier to put a straight edge across the whole thing. The other side, it's shifted by 22.5 degrees from this center line. So having these square edges doesn't really help me on that side. So let's get to it. All right, we got the circle cut out roughly, and you see I've clamped a straight edge. I started, this red line is the one that's square with the other side, but I need to offset it by 22.5, which is half of 45, right? So I got one line, compared that with my digital angle finder, and then once I've got this 22.5, I can use this square to do the various angles. So it's every 45 degrees based off of that line. So now I just need to extend these out to the outer things, so I know where they're going to go. So the next step then will be to go ahead and set up the router and cut these rings in the circle out. All right, set to trim the outside of this circle, and then we'll do this inner one and then the final one. So just a matter of going around. I'll do it in stages instead of one fell swoop, but here we go. All right, we got the two rings cut out. What I'm going to do next, we need to make the frame that's going to connect all of this. And I've got the wood sitting on the joiner, all letting that set for a day or two after I cut it, make it stabilize. But this is going to serve as there's going to be a disc inside of this, and that's what's going to have slots in it. It's basically a cam action to move all of the leaves out. There's 6 leaves, so I got 6 rails that are going to have to move out. So this is going to serve as the main bearing. So what I'm going to do is put little mortises in and put that white ultra high molecular weight plastic in these mortises all around, and then we'll put the router back on and trim it to within 1/8 of an inch of this. But that'll serve as the inner bearing for that cam disc. So I'll go ahead and do that. All right, so I got the center ring. I got the little pieces mounted in there. What I did was cut a little mortise like that. This is a test piece on the pattern router. You need some sort of a horizontal router to do that on this round piece. And then I secured them with 2 screws so that they wouldn't move. I did put a little bit of epoxy in there. They were slightly thinner than my 1/4 inch bit. So just to give them a solid footing, I know that epoxy isn't going to stick to that plastic, but now they're rock solid, and then with the addition of the screws. So now we're going to take the compass again, the router compass, and trim those all to be a circle, just 1/8 of an inch beyond the wood. All right, so there's the finished product. So we got it all the way around. So that'll serve as the inner bearing. I had to take a knife and just shave off the fuzzies off of those. So that's ready. So we're going to go ahead and start working on the supports that get screwed to this plate. Well, I got all the supports cut to size, joiner, planer, saw, and then I put a dado down the middle of these. This is what 2 of these together, spaced out like so, are going to form the rails that the movable part of the table will go in. And I've got some dummy blocks to help me get the alignment. I got them the same height as the others, but I've got just some scraps. So now I need to cut this. Some of these are a little proud, so I'm going to cut that on the table saw using an L fence. If you haven't seen an L fence, that's a really good addition to your table saw. Just search the YouTube for L fence, and you'll see all sorts of them. Well, I messed up. I realized that in the middle of the night last night. So here we are. I got the frame pieces all ready to go, and I cut the middle blocks into little pieces like this. The ones in the center will be glued in place. The ones on the outside are just temporary to keep this parallel. So this one goes all the way across. This is the main support. The others will then come in at angles. But what I messed up is I should have built this whole frame and screwed it to this board before I cut out the center, because now I don't know where the center is. So we'll have to come up with a way to find the center. But right now I'm going to locate this on the ring. And what I've done is I've just got some blocks here. This is just set in place. And I've got dowel holes. I'm going to use dowel markers. And I'm just going to set this down in there. Mark that. We'll drill those out, put 2 pegs in there, and then do the same thing on the other end. So, and then we'll have to locate the center. All right, here we are. I got a sheet of plywood underneath that is going to be the center between these 2, but I don't want to cut that out just yet. So I've drawn the circle here, actually 2 lines, one that's a little bit in and one that's right on the line. So I'm going to put this ring on that circle, and I've got this is the dead center, and this block moves. So we're going to set this on that pin, theoretically. Okay, here we go. All right, I secured both ends with the screws between the ring and this, so this won't pop out. So I don't need these clamps anymore. So now it's just a matter of getting this centered on this circle. It looks like we got to come back this way just a bit. Oh, my apprentice. She thinks she needs something. That looks pretty good. So what now is we'll go ahead and put a screw or dowel to lock that in place. Then we'll be set. All right, I decided to approach this a different way. This way I know that it will be centered, since we have got to put a disc in the center of this. So I got just a straight shaft mounted on the router. I'll show that in a minute. And I've positioned the ring and then just clamped the ring to that board so it doesn't move. And now I had to bump it a little bit, but now I can go all the way around with that router bit down in the circle. So I know it's straight all the way around. So this is what it looks like. I just have a straight bit. So now I know the ring is dead center. So now I just need to put my bridge back across. Oh, there. It's just a straight shaft. So now we'll put the bridge back on and screw it in place. All right, we got it all done. It's all aligned. I put a screw on both sides just to keep this block. Eventually we're going to glue it. So now we can do the 45s that come out on both sides and get those all ready to be mounted. Then we have to we're going to put a strip of that white plastic so that the sections, there's pie sections, there's 6 pie sections, the two big ones at 90 on either side of this beam, and then 45s on these, and they're all going to slide on the top of these, and then of course the notch inside to keep them from flopping off. So onward. All right, I've taken all of the short ones and glued this end right here. So we have to cut the miter there. The other end is not glued. This is just to keep it parallel. And I went ahead and did the dado here. So we'll put on our white plastic in there. I'm going to use 1/4 inch, and so it'll be 1/8 of an inch proud, but that gives me more room to put the screws to hold it down. Last time I used just 1/8 inch on top, and that was kind of flimsy, so I'm going to go with 1/4 inch on this top. So next we're going to cut those miters, and then we can start assembling. All right, I got these. I mitered them and I glued them last night. So this is one assembly. And so now this outside edge here is the 45 from the center, so this line. So I need to cut this off so that these edges here line up with this line right there. So I've got what I think is what it should be, but I'm going to sneak up on that line until it's right, just in the miter sled again. You see, I'm close, but I'm off just by that much on both sides. So just take another shaving off of that, then we'll be there. All right, we are got these all cut. I made a couple of mortises for floating tendons. That's probably overkill, but I did this on the Panarouter, and it's very easy to do. So, we got all set. We just need to glue this up. Well, that should about do it for this episode. Next time we'll work on getting the apron mounted. Thanks for watching. Anybody that's interested in this kind of stuff, pass it on to them. And until next time.